Jason Starnary, Week 3 assignment, Concordia University Portland. For this assignment, I've chosen to do a video answering the questions for the Week 3 assignment. So I will begin with how do the social identities, cultural, ethnicity, and race impact you, your students, and your school. In a school like mine, where there are a number of cultural, ethnic, and race diversities, there's bound to be an impact on the school and its students. We see this quite often in the way students interact with one another, the way they encourage one another, and sometimes the way they make assumptions about and mistreat one another. So there is a great impact that happens as a result of that. What is surprising to me is the impact that it has on me personally. I grew up in a very ethnocentric school and city, and being in a place where there is such great diversity and variety has opened my eyes to several things. One is the importance of individuality and making sure students are free to express their individuality in a way that allows them to identify with their own culture and race. Another is being able to celebrate the unique diversities of different people and cultures. It's okay that people are different. We don't have to pretend that we're not. And it is okay for us, both as a teacher and as students interacting with each other or teachers interacting with each other, to celebrate those differences and embrace them and understand that those differences bring good things to the table. And having different cultures in an area gives us an opportunity to learn about cultures that differ from our own, and that's positive when we approach that with an open mind. The second question is, what assumptions do we make about people from different races, ethnicities, and culture? And the reality is we live in a very media-saturated society, and because of that, we tend to let the media influence what we think about certain people based on their race, their ethnicity, or their culture. And because of that influence, we tend to make poor assumptions about people on those things. For example, in the TEDx talk by Jay Smooth in 2011, he discussed the assumptions that we make about other people based on their race or background. We may think a person is incapable of learning or that they are automatically a criminal because of assumptions that we've made about them from their race or their background. There are other times when we make assumptions about people, say that a person is particularly racist or that a person is not racist because they have a specific viewpoint. Smooth noted the importance of recognizing our own imperfections. The reality is no one is perfect. None of us will always think exactly right or act exactly right. And one way to overcome these issues, the issues of race and so forth, is to recognize that there are going to be times when we're going to make an assumption or we're going to have a prejudice that's not right. And we need to be willing to take an honest look at ourselves and understand that those imperfections exist and then work towards overcoming them in our own lives. But that's only going to happen if we're honest about the fact that we make these assumptions, and if we work towards really changing the way society and people within the society see one another. The third question is based on Seicel and Bacon's question, why is there a dichotomy where some students achieve and some students do not? Blankstein, Noguera, and Kelly from 2015 discussed the importance of providing equity by making sure every student has what they need in order to succeed. I believe the dichotomy where some students succeed and others do not is created by what Blankstein et al. Call zero-sum thinking, where there are the haves and the have-nots. The haves have advantages, the have-nots don't. And when we make assumptions, we will only help certain students succeed. For example, if we see a student, we know they come from a well-to-do background, we look at their grades, we look at their overall performance in school, we begin to make assumptions that that student is bound for success. And we begin then to work with that student to ensure that success. But if we look at a student who is a have-not, who has a difficult socioeconomic background, perhaps whose family struggles just to pay basic bills, and we look at that student, and if we make the assumption that because of a socioeconomic background or the color of their skin that they're not going to succeed, then we will begin to approach that student from a standpoint that they are not going to succeed and we're not going to provide the help that they need. And that really is why this dichotomy exists, is because of these assumptions. And if we assume one student will be successful and another student will not, it almost becomes a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, where we begin to help the student who we believe will succeed, and the student who we believe will not succeed, we perhaps don't provide what they do need. And that is the opposite of what equity really is. Equity is ensuring that every student has what they need to succeed. And if we're going to create that equity, we have to get rid of these assumptions about the haves and have-nots. We need to get rid of what Blankstein et al. Call the zero-sum thinking. The fourth question is, why is it important to develop equity in your classroom? The simple answer goes back to Blankstein et al.'s definition of equity, which is that every student has or is provided what they need in order to be successful. I would add to this the importance of a holistic approach, where students have not only what they need academically to be successful, but also to make sure their needs are met on a physical and psychological level as well. It is important to develop this type of equity in the classroom, school, district, and community as a whole in order to ensure that every student has the opportunity to reach their full potential in life. We cannot make every student succeed, but we can work to make sure that every student has the opportunity to succeed. And that's why equity is so important and so valuable within a school setting, because we have to make the realization that some students simply aren't getting the things that they need. Maybe they don't have a proper nutrition. Maybe they don't have proper clothing. Maybe they don't have access at home to those things which would allow them to be successful in working on school assignments. Maybe there is stress or some other psychological issue that they're dealing with because of a home situation that if a teacher is unaware of, they won't be able to work with that student to help them overcome those issues. And so it becomes quite vital to get to know students, to understand what those needs are, and work towards meeting those needs. And in places where the school cannot meet every need, which is going to be quite often, developing contacts within the community agencies, government agencies, businesses that may be willing to help, and so on, becomes all the more important to providing students what they need. And this really leads to the last question, which is, how will this perspective affect what you teach, and how will you teach it? This perspective will affect how I teach by making me more intentional in my teaching practice. While communicating information is vital, I also have to make sure that I take time to discover what students need, what they need academically, what they may need beyond academics, what they may need outside of the classroom or school. In order to work towards meeting those needs and helping students and families find places outside of the school and in the community where those needs can be met, we have to know what those needs are. And the only way that's going to take place on a personal level for me as a teacher is if I am intentional in my teaching practice. If I intentionally take time to get to know my students, to understand their interests, to understand their struggles, and then work with the students, work with their families, work with school administration, and work with those in the community to make sure those needs are being provided for, so that the student has at least a smaller number of struggles to face in order to be academically successful. Thank you very much.